So I've just added up all of my pay slips from the last year and I have earned a total of... Hello and welcome back to my channel. Now if any of you guys have seen my how to make and save money at university video, then you will know that I was an accommodation representative in my first year. So today I am going to be telling you all about what it means to be an accommodation representative and also telling you what the benefits are of you doing this in your first year at university. Now if you are a returning watcher or subscriber, then you will notice I am in a new filming location. This is because I have now moved into my second year university house in Norwich. At some point I will probably be doing a room tour, so stay tuned for that. The time of this video may seem a little bit strange, but in fact the emails about being an accommodation representative came around I think in my first week of university. So I could really have done with a video like this to explain what it means, what the benefits, and whether it was worth my time doing that. So before I get into the video, please don't forget that if any point in this video is useful, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and to comment down below to let me know. So to start off with, I'm going to go through a brief overview of what it actually means to be an accommodation rep, because obviously a lot of you won't be at uni yet and you won't know what the job actually is. So first and foremost, as an accommodation representative, you'll be working as a team. Another group of student ambassadors will bring a group to your flat or accommodation. It's then your job to take over from them and to give them a tour of the accommodation and to answer any questions that they have. But don't worry, you won't be working by yourself. So when the emails come around, I think it's within the first week or so, they will ask that at least, I think 4 other people want to be accommodation representatives in your flat, otherwise you won't be able to do it. So on some of the smaller open days you might be working by yourself, but then obviously the numbers in the groups that you're showing around will be a lot smaller. But most of the time, when it's a large open day, you'll be working as a group, so don't worry too much about that. Obviously, I can only speak on behalf of UEA here because I go to UEA, but I'm sure a lot of other universities will operate like this as well. So when we were working as a team on a larger open day, we would split ourselves up, so we'd have one person on the door downstairs to welcome people as they came in, one person on the door upstairs to hold it open, one person in the kitchen doing the kitchen talk, all about the kitchen and university generally, and then one person showing people around the bedrooms, whichever ones we had open. So this all sounds super easy, but what skills are you going to need to be an accommodation representative? Firstly, be transparent with the people. When they're asking questions, make sure not to overemphasize anything. Don't only say the good, don't only say the bad, but at the same time, don't make university look really bad because essentially you're working for the university and you're trying to show off your accommodation and to get people to stay there. Especially for the larger open days, you'll also be able to need to work as a team, quite obviously, because you're gonna have different people doing different things. But also confidence is such a big thing. If you get a large group of people, then sometimes you'll need to split them up. So you might have to say, can I have half the group go to the kitchen, have the kitchen talk first, while half go to the bedroom, and then we'll swap round. So obviously you need to have the confidence to be able to speak to these people and to be able to do the talks about the university, the kitchen, the bedrooms, answer any questions that they have. So obviously it's really important to be able to answer people's questions, but often you'll find that you'll get a group of people, especially students, and they'll just feel really intimidated and won't want to ask questions. So basically the more that you talk about and tell the group of people, the more that encourage them to think, oh yeah, I need to ask about so and so. You know, you don't want to overwhelm people, but make sure to give the best overview of everything about the accommodation that you can. So for example, when I was doing my talks about the kitchen, I might say something like, this is how much fridge space we get, and then it might encourage someone to think, oh yeah, I need to ask about where the nearest supermarket is. So I tend to give my talk and at the end say, has anyone got any questions? And whilst you've been speaking about these things, people will have thought of other questions because often people don't go to open days with questions in mind. I actually have a video on what to ask at university open days, which I will link above, and that could be really useful for you to know what to base your conversation or your talk around. Honestly, the more questions you get, the more interesting your day will be, but also the more that group of people will get out of their open day as well. So it's so important that you make yourself engaging and you make people want to ask questions that are useful. Don't forget that on open days you'll obviously have students looking around, but you also have a lot of parents as well. Parents and students often want to know very different things, so make sure that you speak about what parents want but also what students want. So obviously it's important that you get across to students the really important information that they want because they are the ones going to university. So students tend to want to know things like where the nearest supermarket is, how much fridge space they get, how many people are in the kitchen at one time, all things like that. Whereas parents are a lot more likely to want to know things about like security around the university. So when you're planning your talks for these people, make sure to plan things for the students but also for the parents as well. So now what you're all here for, let's move on to the benefits of being an accommodation representative. Now obviously the money has to be the most obvious benefit of doing this job. At the end of the video I will expose how much I earn in my first year from being an accommodation representative. But in terms of this being a job, the best thing is that it's so sporadic, so there's absolutely no time commitment. Obviously the university are probably going to want you to work more than one open day if you can over the year, but there's absolutely no time commitment to say that you have to do this, so you work when you want to work. You'll sign up at UEA at least on an online system, and then the university will allocate the jobs to the flats. So as long as you've got enough people in your flat that can work on each day, then it's very likely you'll be working. I know last year Hickling and Barton, they always had a shortage of people that wanted to work for some reason, so if you're in Hickling and Barton, then make sure to sign up to do that if you can. In terms of the hours you're working, it doesn't necessarily feel like you're doing a job. The longest I ever worked was 8 hours, and that was on the big open day at the start of the year. After that, I think most shifts that I worked were between 1 and 4 hours, so often I could do this between lectures and be earning some money, which was brilliant. So the less obvious benefits are the skills that you're going to gain from being an accommodation representative. The best skill that I gained was for public speaking. I honestly don't think that I would be able to have started a YouTube channel before I did this job, because you have to be more confident with speaking to people. As I said, it's really important to be able to recognise the difference between what parents want to know and what students want to know, and I feel this has really helped me to adapt in different situations. You definitely have to be able to think on your feet in this job. Sometimes you'll get a really big group of students and parents and think, whoa, what do I do with you? And you'll have to be able to think on your feet to be able to split them up into different groups, because it can be quite overwhelming. You know, flats or accommodation at university are not massive, so to have lots of people in there trying to see different things can be quite overwhelming, and it's up to you to sort them out. Likewise, I once had a situation where there were some sixth form students looking around my room and they started touching all my stuff and I didn't like it. And that's actually really difficult because you're like a similar age. It's really difficult for you to say, look guys, that's really disrespectful, could you put my stuff down please? Likewise, that combination of having to be kind of honest and transparent but also kind of confidential in terms of things like pricing, I think that's a really transferable skill, especially if you're going to something like healthcare. And lastly, another benefit of doing this job is the other opportunities that it provides. So for example, I am working at the Arrivals Weekend this year. If any of you guys watch my channel and you see me at Arrivals Weekend, then make sure to say hello. As I mentioned earlier, there are a group of students who will bring the group to your accommodation. It could even end up that once you've done the accommodation representative job in your first year, you could end up being a student guide in your second year. I also worked on the virtual open day during the summer as well, answering questions about history, because history is the course that I take at university, and I got that job from being an accommodation representative. There are then obviously indirect opportunities, so all of the skills that you have gained from this and the fact you can put this down as a job on your CV could then be really, really useful later when you're trying to get a job. Especially as university students, I know a lot of people haven't had a job before, so this could be a really good way of getting your first job. The actual process of getting the job is really easy, so you don't need any qualifications or experience. Obviously it's better if you do have some sort of experience with public speaking, but you don't need any of this. And then after that, you'll just have a small interview, which is really easy. You'll just need some sort of identification. In the interview, the interviewers will ask you questions that could be questions that students or parents ask when they come and look around, and you then just have to answer them for them. As long as they're okay, you've basically got the job. So in this folder, I have all of my wage slips from my first year of being an accommodation representative. So I'm now going to go through and add everything up and tell you guys how much I actually earned from this job. So I've just added up all of my pay slips from the last year, and I have earned a total of £260.23, which obviously is not enough to live on, but it's definitely worth having, especially considering that the shifts are just so easy and convenient. So if you guys get an email about being an accommodation representative in your first couple of weeks at university, then be sure to check it out and don't just delete it straight from your inbox.